there. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I did over my summer vacation. Just a couple months ago, I decided to embark on something that was a little bit maybe crazy, silly, stupid, but absolutely enjoyable, which was being a participant on something called the Mongol Rally. It's a car race rally that starts from the Czech Republic and goes to a little bit far off, Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia, which is about 10,000 miles over some of the most ridiculous terrains possible, of which about 5,000 miles of that is off-road. And you would imagine, well, why do you do that? Well, we did it for charity. We were raising money for a Mongolian local orphanage named the Lotus Children's Center. And you would imagine at this point that you would do such, can I say ordeal? It shouldn't be an ordeal, it was an enjoyable trip. It may be a big, tough SUV or some mammoth 4x4. That's way too easy, right? Instead, we did it in a crappy little subcompact that we bought over the internet for a couple of $1,000 that was of French engineering. That's really smart, right? We should have bought some Japanese or German. We bought it because it was silver. Again, maybe why architects maybe shouldn't make those types of decisions. And as you can see, we really thought about it, how it would be. But how did this all begin? This was, so we participated with 300 teams and from 22 different countries, about 1,000 people altogether. And it was initially started by two English gentlemen that were probably, I would say, drinking heavily when they came up with this idea in a bar, looking out the door of the bar, and they saw this beat-up old Fiat there for sale. And this was about 10 years ago. They said, you know what? Let's buy that car and go someplace with it. All right, that sounds like a good idea. Let's go do that. Well, how about let's go to maybe France or Germany? A little boring, a little dull. Well, let's go to maybe Eastern Europe. That's more interesting. Well, if we're in Eastern Europe, why don't we go a little bit further and let's go all the way to Russia? That's a little bit more intriguing. Oh, for goodness sake, if we're going to go to Russia, let's just go to Mongolia. So they jumped in the car with no plans, no maps, no preparations, nothing, and drove to Mongolia. And got there, got to the Mongolian border. They were saying, it's very nice to see that you're here, but you might need some visas to get in. So please go home. Which is what they did. And this entire trip took about a month, and they set up this thing called the Mongol Rally, which we had the chance to participate on. And with the Mongol Rally, one of the things that just is so great about it is just that leap of faith that you have to take. The idea that all of a sudden you're going to places that generally are not the hot spots for tourism, say Kazakhstan or Mongolia. It's the idea of like, let's go get ourselves lost in a desert and think this is a good idea, and hopefully the car doesn't shred itself to bits. Okay, the amount of duct tape, Gorilla Tape, and chicken wire that we used for most of it was ridiculous, but you know. So we started realizing that as we looked to the great G, Google, that simply was useless. Google Maps was useless, it was wrong in those parts, the information was outdated, we couldn't find out what roads to go on, where to stay. Boy, now this is getting more interesting, isn't it? This is intriguing, this is a lot more fun. So we headed out without GPS, but with some books that one of my teammates bought. I don't know why he bought the maps in German, but he decided to buy them. None of us speak German. Going into, and at least our guidebooks were in English. That was good, and especially because then everything was in Cyrillic, so we could double translate everything when you're trying to explain a town to a local and sort of say where are we headed to. That's useful. And then the idea that we would then head towards these places to ask locals the information. And what we soon began to discover was this wonderful universal truth about how we feel about neighbors. That you ask a Czech, what should we expect of Ukraine? Oh my goodness, don't go there. Oh my goodness, do you know what you're getting yourself into? You know, if you're in a small village, they will slit your throat if you have too nice of a shirt. Oh, that's nice to know. Well, surprisingly, my throat is still rather attacked after going through the Ukraine. We're in the Ukraine, we talked about going to Russia. They said, oh my goodness, When you see the police, immediately stop, because if you don't, they'll shoot you. It's legally loud. Well, not too many bullet holes through me, thank goodness for that. As we then headed to Kazakhstan, the Russians said, "Are you insane? Why would you go there? That's just stupid. I mean, it's just desert, you're gonna get stuck, and you're gonna have to dig yourself out, there's nothing but sand." We immediately ran and bought lots of shovels, which we didn't have to use because it wasn't really that bad. And in Kazakhstan, when we said we were going to Mongolia, they're like, "In a car? Are you people idiots?" "In a horse." That was right. Well, they might have had something to do with that, as you can see on this little video. This is, by the way, the major highway across Mongolia. It goes for about 1,500 miles of this. We're not going to make you watch all of it. But also, the other thing that we found that was absolutely sort of fantastic was the chance to communicate without language. So you come into a place and you have a menu, and you're like, "Please, please, please, please." "Oh yes, there's some pictures. Thank goodness. Now I can point at what I want to eat." Of course, invariably they've never had it, so, well, you know, you got something that would feed you. But you knew that time would come, when all of a sudden there would not be then a menu with pictures. And now we have that beautifully written Cyrillic language, which is useless to myself and our rather silly teammates that had endeavored on this. So what do? Well, first time I tried making animal sounds, moo, they stare at you like an idiot, but that's okay, because, you know, why not? So then we found out what was much better was to simply take a piece of paper and draw animals out, and then you could point and go, "Do you have this?" And then the lady behind the counter was like, "Yeah, that's this part of the menu." "Okay." So you would randomly choose one, and they'd be like, "Ooh." And it's like, "Oh, stomach or tripe. Okay, no, I understand it. I don't want to have stomach of a cow." Okay, so we would go, and of course invariably it's always the most expensive thing, but you know, it's usually the most tasty thing, so that was always fun. But once we got into Mongolia, it got even more tricky. Like, there was no similarity of languages. It's so drastically different. And you have a country the size of Western Europe with a population of 3 million people, of which 2 million live in the capital. So you have this just incredible expanse of nothingness. So when you come across people, by the way, did you notice how many road signs there have been on this video? Tons, right? Not a single one. When we saw the first road sign at 500 miles in, we were like ecstatic. We looked at it and we were thrilled and then realized it was useless. But the part that was great was we finally figured it out. We finally figured the trick out of what we needed to be able to do, which was to be able to find little girls who are between the ages of 10 to 13 and to use them as translators, because they're starting to learn English, at that point in time, and boys are just too shy to talk. Little girls just immediately just come up to you and chit-chat. And then you would have discussions with them because you'd use them as translators, and you'd be like, "Okay, the exhaust has fallen off my car, and I need to weld the exhaust back to my car." "Oh, okay, very good. What's an exhaust?" "Okay, you see this big metal thing that is hanging, dragging all over the place? This is it?" "Oh, okay. Okay, what is weld?" "Okay, weld is like to fix." "Okay, what's fix?" "Okay, we need to put this thing back on the car so you can go." "Oh, okay." And now she would squeak beautifully to her father, and the father would respond back to her, and then eventually we would find a mechanic. So on this little trip of, using whichever individuals that we could on the trip, we eventually did make it to Ulaanbaatar, and the trip was 10,000 miles, and the car was a little bit more weathered than the original picture that might be there. The beautiful thing is that almost everything was ripped off of it by the end. We donated it to charity. We made all the transactions in Mongolian because of the fact that by this point, we didn't need a language to be able to communicate. I've never sold a car before, but now I know how to do it in Mongolian. And the beauty of it is that we, after engaging in this event in which more people have gone to the North Pole, or more people have gone to Mount Everest than have done the Mongol Rally. So we're sort of a little exclusive group. And out of the 300 participants, 200 actually made it, which basically is about 100 of these little cars that were strewn all across most of Central Asia. But we were delighted when we saw our number of 42. And we made that realization that maybe on our voyage here to cross the world, to these places unknown, that we did learn a little bit about life, the universe,